Hey viewers, David Oliverio here. My son is with me today. This is Jordan Oliverio. Good to have you, son.
Good to be here.
So we talk a lot. We've been talking for years and years and years, and about lots of different topics. And Jordan is a Christian, and of course, most of you know about me. I'm a non-believer. So I guess the question is, can non-believers and believers in our current world, with all the polarization and everything, can we learn to accept one another more and try to make a better world where people can relate to each other a little bit more? Is it something that we can do? I know we can do it easily because we're related.
I think we could do it even if we weren't related, though, just based off of what our beliefs are. They might be very different, but there's similarities that we can focus on that really unite us rather than separate us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that would just be called the common ground thing. Yeah, we do have a lot in common, more than most people think. Yeah, I mean, the common morals of humanity, you would agree that we have this thing called love that we promote, kindness, compassion.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I want to digress for a moment. It's something I didn't want to, I was thinking whether or not we should talk about, but yesterday, Jordan and his sister, my daughter Victoria, and I and my wife Christine went to my parents' grandpa's memorial service. So I've never mentioned this in my show, but my parents died a couple months ago. So we had a memorial service. But son, I didn't tell you this earlier, but yesterday was such a beautiful experience for me because it was in a church, right? We went to the Baptist church. My sister was there, and my daughter and myself were two of the four speakers, but we were able to talk about my parents and their life. And but the feeling I got from yesterday was this intense joy, and Christine and I discussed this, because I got to see, and you saw, some of my friends that I haven't seen in 30 years since I quit believing in God or going to church, right? And just that feeling of going back to our relationship the way it was, continuing our relationship like we never stopped. You know, we still have the same friendship with people that have a different worldview. I think you probably saw that yesterday in us.
Yeah, so for me and the people I surround myself with, I know there's a traditional view of what Christians or how Christians can come across to unbelievers or whatever you may call them, atheists, humanists. And in the generations past, there may have been a very closed off mindset or response, or maybe even sometimes anger, which is the opposite of what I believe. So my hopes before yesterday would have been that there was a unity between people, not based off of what they believe, but based off of the love for one another. Because like you and I agree, is that love for people in general, despite who they are, what they believe, how they smell, what they look like, the color of their skin, their gender, love precedes first. And so, yeah, I was encouraged to see that as well. Absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of people not only enjoyed what you had to say, but congratulated you, came up and had a lot of compliments, because I was watching that, and I was very encouraged seeing people from your past that may still have the same beliefs that you did back then, knowing that you don't believe now, but still have respect and love for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very nice to see that. It really touched me to feel that same relationship and feeling with other people. Yeah. So Jordan, you are in your 30s. Where do you see, I guess, maybe your age group, the millennials? What is your feeling about the relationships between non-believers, from your perspective at your age, and believers? Is there a way that, do you see any interactions, camaraderie, unity between them at your age?
Yeah.
Your age group?
Yes, absolutely. So I have friends of every kind you can think of. I don't really make friends based off of specifically what they believe. I do share openly what I believe, and in hopes that it may better lives of some, of the people I run across. but I don't try to discriminate. Just like I believe in Jesus, so I believe what he did was all of it was out of love. And so when he was able to sit at a well with somebody that was not like him, that he was told not to, people like you don't sit at a well with people like this, and encourage them. I see life the same way. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. But I think more of my generation and the generations to follow are starting to accept that kind of life rather than this exclusive group of people that you're not welcome in if you don't see it the same way I do. Because that's not love. Love is inclusive. No man, woman, Jew, Gentile, man or woman is made separate, but made one. And so I that's the way I see it. I know yours is coming from a different place, but we can stand on that common ground, which I really enjoy. It hasn't always been that way with us.
No, we had our fights. Nothing like my father.
I wouldn't call them
had.
fights.
Well, we had some heated debates.
Yeah, but there was always love.
Love.
That's the difference between, I think, your situation with your dad. Well, there was still love there, though.
Yeah, and for those of you that are viewing, we may as well say it since we're just talking. My father did disown me, and you saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
About 2-3 years ago, but that was a hard situation, and it was hard for him to see what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it was a hurtful time. But I called him about 8 or 9 months ago and restored the relationship. Thankfully, before he died just a few months ago. That was nice.
Yeah.
We all, like you said, Jordan, it is that love, whether or not you believe it comes from a God or from nature. Love is love. And love did kind of keep us together in our family. It's what keeps us together, right?
I have respect for you too, though. I think it's a little easier because I don't look at you based off what you believe. I see you out of the love I have for you, right? And you've made mistakes, I've made mistakes, but we see past that. I think that's the important thing in humanity, right? Is not holding people to the standard of you have to operate within my parameters of expectations. If you don't do these things, I can't love you, right? And I think that's where real love exists outside that box. You may go this way or that way, I'm still going to accept you. I'm still, not only accept you, but I'm still going to love you past acceptance, and I think our relationship has shown that differently.
Yeah, of course it's easy for us because we're father-son in this, but can people that are not biologically related, can they have good relationships with people of a different worldview, different belief system?
Yeah. No, I personally think so because I have a lot of those in my life. I mean, I live in a young, thriving community in Dallas, Texas, and there's people from every kind of background. It's I think the largest apartment complex in the nation right now. So I get to meet hundreds of people since I've lived there, and I've become friends with every kind of person you can think of. And I think that's the important part of connecting with people. It's not. I don't really. It's a joy. It's a joy to meet people different than me, and I think it's a challenge to me. How do I love that person even though they may not see things exactly the way that I would like them to see? And I've even got rid of some of that, of my expectation of when they should see things a certain way or how they should see things. It's more of, well, how can I love them and serve them for where they're at? And maybe encourage them towards their goals. And in that, the love that I have for them, sometimes they are open to hear, a lot of times they're open to hear why I'm that way or why I treat them with such respect. And I'll share it openly about my faith. But I think it's the same thing with you going and serving the homeless and doing all the things you do to serve people and love them well. People are probably pretty receptive to your message and saying, why do you do this? Because it's not normal. And I think that's the challenge that we're talking about here is how do we make something more normal where we are accepting across different boundaries, different ethnicities, different belief systems? How do we create that as normality rather than this normality where it's you believe that, you go hang out with these people, you believe that, you're in that group. Kind of like the old movies that were made of like high school, or like all the old school high school movies that people watch when they're younger, where there was these cliques, when you had in high school, like the band group, the popular athletes, whatever. And we were maturing as adults, so we should leave that behind us. I think that's the challenge that you're trying to create to the world is this is archaic, number one. Number two, it's kind of immature. So how do we get outside of that immature system that we've learned and been brainwashed since a kid of you fit in this puzzle piece. You're this group, you're that group. How do we combine everyone to create a unity in love? And yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and we would have to agree. Yeah. So you and your sister, you and Victoria, were fortunate to. I guess I like to talk about getting out of the bubble, because some people are very isolated, and they're in their environment only. They're unable to go out and talk to people. Right. And you were able to travel the world. Right. You were all over.
Which helped a lot.
It does help, doesn't it? You have a college degree. Victoria has a college degree. So both of you were able to do that, and I think that's what I try to do, son, is when I speak to fellow non-believers, I talk about always getting out of the bubble, a message I call the triple L policy, live and let live. How can you get along with people from different worldviews, religions, non-religions? And a lot of it is just getting out of yourself and being with people from other beliefs. And you find out we have so many things in common.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a real key. But it is harder for those that do not want to get out of their little group, right? That exclusive group, or like you were talking about, maybe the outdated primitive mode of tribalism versus more inclusivity or inclusivism, right? When you get out of yourself and open up to all people. And by doing so, that's when we find out that we're more alike than most people know.
Yeah, and in their defense, I think for everyone, when you're thinking about change, it's scary. So it's more comfortable and easier in life to say, I'm going to stick with the people that are like me and make me feel that where I'm at safe and okay. And I completely understand that. But I think progressing society into a more united, I mean, this is scripture for me, right? Like what I believe, if you open scripture, that's what Jesus did. He came and he said, doesn't matter if you're a Jew or Gentile, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, it doesn't matter where you're from or what your heritage is, I'm going to receive you who you are. And I think it's the same thing you're saying is, it's scary because it's something unknown. But I think the things that are unknown are the things that we need to be pushing in towards because there's no real progressive change. It's good for the world. It's good for mankind. Is the uncomfortable kind, which makes it great. It makes it the journey that we should be pushing into, like you're doing, which is encouraging. Because on my end too, you talk about atheism and humanism and how Christians have been angry towards you. That embarrasses me. It embarrasses me. But on the other end, I think we've talked about how atheists. I've had many conversations with atheists in a loving way. I'm not your angry Christian at all. I will talk to anybody.
He's not. He loves everybody. Yeah.
Whoever it may be, and my main goal is not to convert you, even though that would be great if you believe what I believe. But that's my main goal, is to love you where you are, with no motive other than to accept you and that you know that I want to be your friend. But I think that I've had a lot of that pushback that you've had from the Christians on the from the atheist side. Anger, frustration that maybe I don't see what they're seeing the way that they see it. And I think that's both of our battles, on the Christian side, from maybe the more old school Christian view of how dare you believe what you believe, God has given all of this to you and sacrificed himself for you, and it's the other side, how can you believe such an idiotic thing of myths and made up stories, and then seeing those differences but being able to accept each other in love, because love, we believe, is Christ himself and God himself, and you believe it's an innate natural thing that we've been born with. Either way, it's still telling us to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So I think the message to and the people watching is, and comment. I don't know where he's going to post this because I'm not on social media or do anything with social media, but comment and give some feedback on what are some good points that you could give my dad because he's starting a group.
A secular humanist community,
of what they could do to help create unity and show love to mankind without focusing on the differences, but focusing more on common ground, right? And how we can love and create communities of people to feel included and part of a family, because I think that's part of our purpose on life, and I think we can both agree to that, is being a part of a group of people and bettering the lives of the group themselves.
Yeah, it's the same concept. Yeah. Or like-minded communities. And I'll say this, that I think you discussed this with me before, and you asked me when was telling me about what I want to do with this Oasis secular humanist community thing I want to start. Is this going to be, you asked me once, is this going to be a Sunday morning meeting like a church, which is similar to a church, but will it be for Christians and all various type of people? Are we going to come together under one roof and have a meeting? Well, the answer is no. Can it be? Maybe one day. But my goal right now is we should all have our individual groups. That's the way I say it. Because we have some differences, right? But I just want a place where we can call our identity. Because you go to your group for Christians, but you don't hate to, hopefully, many of y'all are more like you, we don't hate the people in the humanist communities. So I guess my goal is just to create a community for non-believers, right? But that's our group, you have your group, but at the same time, we reach out to all people, we love people, even if we have some disagreement on some things, which we do. Right? And that's a step in the right direction. And I call that diplomacy, and diplomacy, as you know, doesn't mean you have to agree on everything or change your mind. It just means you respect and love the person, like you say, more than what they believe or the differences.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm coming from. That's kind of my take on all that.
Yeah, and I will be honest, I do care what people believe. And I think it's, even if it's not what I believe, I do want to hear, because people are very passionate. Like, you're very passionate about not believing in a God. But the people that do believe in a God are very passionate, because a lot of times that belief has changed their life for the better in a lot of ways. And so I think I'm open to hear and discuss, and I love those conversations. But I do agree with you. I think loving people is the beginning of whatever change may come in the right direction. So if they choose to believe in a God or not, there's freedom found first and foremost in knowing that people love them. I think that, and that's the biggest change, is knowing I'm accepted by this group of people, whoever they may be, and they love me for who I am. And they want to encourage me to change, not in a bad way, but to progressively change, to become a better contributor to society, or the better mom, a better dad, a better, brother, sister, wife, whatever you may be a better contributor to whoever is around you. And so I think, and I'm excited about what's to come there, but I do, my goal, kind of like yours, is I want to challenge Christians, just the same way you want to challenge, atheists and humanists. I want to challenge Christians to get outside of forcing views and in love, and first and foremost, do as Jesus did. Go and love and serve. Speak truth, whatever you think your truth may be, but do it in a loving, kind way, not a dictative, pushy, I need you, I can't believe you don't, how dare you, that's not love. No.
The coerciveness,
Yeah, and I think truth, whatever you think, my truth, I believe it's 100% true. So of course I want to share that with people, but I'm going to do it in a way that's first and foremost built off friendship and love. A lot of times when people ask me my beliefs, it's because there's a long relationship that precedes that conversation, where they're interested in why I live the way that I do, or why I receive them the way that I have, and then they ask me. It's a completely different realm than I think a lot of people know from Christians. It's like, hey, I was walking by and God gave me a vision of a guy in a green shirt, and I think I need to sit down and pray for you. It's like,
yeah. Oh, I've had a lot of that. Well, we used to do that back in the day when I was your age.
I did too. And I think it pushed a lot of people further away, thinking that, they must think I'm a horrible person, rather than saying, hey, what's your name? Just a cordial, kind, loving conversation. What's your name? How are you? Let's hang out sometime. Let's get some coffee. I'd like to learn more about your life. Just because, not with the motive of I'm going to do this notch on my belt. I just want to love
somebody.
That's
the key right there, because I think as an atheist, and a lot of atheists would agree with me, that the believers that have approached us through the years have been that type of
There's an
Christian.
agenda.
And that's all it's about. They're not judging me by my character, by what type of person I am.
Right.
You don't know Jesus, you're an atheist, you got to have what I have. You need this. I do, that type of thing. And so that's more that very aggressive type style of Christianity. Now, I used to do that as a believer, and this was back in the 70s and 80s. That was my background in that type of church, right? So as a believer, as well as anybody, or more than I do, that there are various types of churches and type of Christians, right? We're talking about those that would rather just go out and share the love. Same thing on my side of the fence in atheism. what I'm trying to do is present to atheism that we do have a belief system. And what bothers some of them is that this belief system in humanism does resemble the religions of the world, because it's the same principles of compassion and love and kindness and so forth.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal of mine, is to try to make a more equitable world for everybody. So we stop the hate, even if we have differences, we just stop the hate is number one. Because hate's not going to do anything. Love transforms lives, right? For the good, whether you're a believer or non-believer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, there could be different driving forces for that love. But I think as long as we land upon the love themselves, I'm not upset if somebody loves me and treats me well and respectful and they believe something different than me. I'm not upset. I don't think anyone should be. I think you can still desire that person to maybe see the truths that you believe in without it being angry or hostile in any way, right?
Knee-jerk reaction type thing.
But I think we talked about this the other day, and I think a point to drive home too, and to have compassion on both ends, and challenge ourselves, even though we land upon that same foundation, is we have to understand that if somebody is telling you about a story that they're very passionate about, just like you are to the world about, you are so passionate about finding a place that people can be united and loved and accepted despite their differences. I think somebody finds their truth in, say, Christianity, they're going to be, I think atheists need, and humanists also need to be open-minded to the other side of saying, you know, I need to be compassionate, understanding of Christians sharing their faith with me, as long as it's not angry. Now, I'm with you. I would be defensive too if it's angry and you need. Yeah. But if a Christian's trying to share the gospel with you of Jesus Christ that changed their life, I think we have to be understanding that is coming from a place of, even though it may be forceful, and I don't agree with that, I think it's, and this is just a question for people to understand, is a lot of times it's coming from a place where that is the most important part of their life, and it changed their life to a significant better place of more peace and understanding and kindness to other people. So they have that desire to share that same, and I think the same thing goes with what you're sharing.
Oh,
you have peace in your life, and you want to share that with other people because you know how great it feels to go around these people here. We're at a pool, and you would walk up to them and build, I've seen you do it a million times, you just build a relationship with them. I do the same thing because you care about people. You want to share that with somebody. But I think all I'm saying is I think we need to be open to understanding where that comes from. On both ends, it comes from a really good place. So I think people can get really defensive. I've seen people, on both sides get really defensive, even though somebody's coming at them in a really loving way. Hey, I just want to share this story with you. And I think we're so easily offended nowadays. Sometimes it's better just to, hey, let me hear your story. Cool, you believe that, I believe this. Let's still be friends.
Well, that's more mature thinking. I think we've talked about that too. I think when someone on either side can come to a point where they're maybe over their hurtful stage or angry stage, and they just mature, whether you would call it, like in the Bible, talked about the believers on the milk of the word, the meat of the word, discipleship, people that grow up. Denise and I had this talk the other day. My sister, his aunt, and I've discussed with her, and she's a Southern Baptist, how some Christians have treated me through the years, very hateful and so forth, just like some atheists have treated some Christians very hateful. But she calls that, she said, David, those are immature Christians, because mature Christians love, and I say the same thing in humanism. I would call it maybe underdeveloped. People that are more developed tend to reach out and love people more and look past just the beliefs and at the person. And then we get down to the contingency. We can accept and have no problem with somebody else's belief system as long as it doesn't bring harm to people, or it doesn't take away other people's beliefs or disrespect them. And that's where I'm at. I don't really care what people believe as long as that belief system doesn't cause harm. And that's where I draw the line.
And I think, it's okay to, like I said before, I think the point I'm trying to express is I desire to share what I believe with people because it's made a significant impact on my life. And I think that's most Christians. I think it's my challenge to most Christians, if any Christians watching this, is let's do it out of love for the person, right? A lot of times I think the most beautiful thing is letting that naturally progress, that conversation naturally progress, rather than trying to force, something down somebody's throat, which I think is what we see a lot in the world today with certain agendas. And I'm not going to get into that, but
Yeah.
people are constantly feeling forced to accept either of you, or feeling guilty if they don't see of you a certain way. And I think the beauty of uniqueness in life is that cultures are preserved. Uniqueness is preserved with individuals, and letting people be unique in their own way, but accepting them in love in that place is, I think, how we progress, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Hate doesn't progress. It brings us backwards. It takes us back. We want to progress and move ahead.
Yeah.
And it's just through kindness and love. So, all right. Well, we had a nice little talk, and thanks for coming down. I wish you would have spoke yesterday, but I know that you got in late.
Yeah, didn't have much time to do that. I wish I would have too, but I just,
Yeah.
you know me, I'm just landed the night before, like 1 a.m. from a business conference in Vegas, and then had a nonprofit event to go to after that. So 2 days sleeping for 5 hours is not the best time to do public speaking.
Right.
So
Well, maybe next time. Well, hopefully there
there
won't be a next time.
next opportunity without death. Let's say that.
Without death.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you can give a nice message about
I will
me.
definitely speak at your funeral, promise.
All right, and you viewers can view that. My son will be there, and he'll post it for you, maybe. How's that?
They'll probably hold me accountable to saying that.
All right, well, thanks for coming on, son. I love you. You know that.
Love you too.
All right, thanks for watching, folks. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.